Would you consider yourself a high-level entrepreneur? Now, most likely, if you're listening to this, you definitely are. And what I've heard over and over and over again is it's hard to find like-minded people that are like that too. Again, I'm from Maine, so I totally understand how difficult it can be. Thank goodness I have an amazing online community, so I know tons of them. And that is exactly why we are starting this brand new mastermind group with high-level, like-minded entrepreneurs, the ones that you can go alongside with that will help move you to the next level, let alone with kick butt coaching from me, because I like to slap you around, both on focus and on strategy. So if you're looking to double or triple this year, which I know most of you are, I want you to go ahead and apply and see if it's a good fit for you. I will totally tell you if it's not, and if I wouldn't do it if I were you. But go to eventualmillionaire.com/apply. We are looking for amazing, like-minded entrepreneurs. My previous mastermind members have told me it is life changing. So take the time today, fill out the very quick application, and we'll see if it's a fit. Take care.
Potent advice and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Hey, it's Jaime, and welcome to a selects edition of Eventual Millionaire. This is where we go back and find the best of the best, the ones that you loved from the past 6-7 years. We've been doing this a long time, and there's some amazing interviews with amazing guests that you have not seen yet. So we are bringing them back. It is the Selects edition. Let us know what you think, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and today on the show, we have Nunzio Presta. He runs mybizon.com, which his site's called BizOn, right? And so he actually buys and sells different, I think it's offline and online businesses, which is so amazing and unique considering most of us think that we have to be startups in order to start our own business, but you don't have to. You can buy one. So thanks so much for coming on the show today, Nunzio.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
How the heck do you come up with this idea? It's kind of rare.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of comes back to my journey. I used to be, to go back in the day, I used to be a semi-pro hockey goalie. Fast forward, the career didn't go the way I wanted to. So I found myself in business school where I started this little company with a friend of mine. And we got to the point where it was pretty good, but we didn't have the expertise or resources to actually grow it to that next level. So I started looking for ways to try and sell it. And, I'd be shut down by realtors that were more focused on selling homes or business brokers that wanted multi-million-dollar listings. And then publicly announcing it to everyone, I felt uncomfortable doing that. So I did my research. I dug into it a little bit more, and I said, wow, there's really no online community or marketplace where people could easily search for little, small business opportunities or franchise opportunities, or simply try and sell it themselves. And then, that's I went for it. And now, we've had multiple versions since that day, but it's really morphed into a really dynamic, resourceful, seamless, and supportive marketplace where not only entrepreneurs and business owners can leverage, but we're also seeing a ton of business brokers and franchisors leveraging it as well as a marketing tool.
What year was that, by the way?
So I founded the company in 2012, and then I was on a journey for a good year and a half, trying to, attract the right team to bring my vision to reality. And we officially launched in 2014. And yeah, the rest is history now.
So what's your business model on this too? Because we've had a couple guys that are business brokers, which makes a lot of sense. But if you even have business brokers that buy on your website too, where does your cash come in on the business model side?
So what we do is we look at ourselves as that matchmaker. So we're along that journey, that buying or selling journey. But we never tell someone, hey, just use us. We think it's very important to leverage professionals. We think it's very important to leverage any sort of professional advice to help you buy and sell, because that's your goal. But what happens with us is sometimes we have business owners that are pretty savvy. They know their valuation. They know what they're looking to do as far as selling or buying, and they just want that connection. So as far as what we do is we provide self-serve ads where they create their own listings, they promote it it on our site, and then we're doing a great job from a digital marketing perspective and a social selling perspective of attracting these like-minded people that are looking for existing opportunities to purchase, and we just connect them. Now, if there's ever an instance where there's a small business owner or a franchise owner that says, hey, listen, I want to sell, but I'm not comfortable creating my own listing or doing it myself, I need professional help, that's actually where we'll refer them to a business broker to help them. So there's a lot of partnership and working together.
So it's not like you're trying to like push away the business brokers and be that instead. It's a
Absolutely
collaboration
not.
between everybody.
Yeah, we're trying to provide some options that kind of fit unique circumstances, right?
Well, and I've seen a lot of like business website ones that are just like online digital small things, right? But you had like hair salons and like offline stuff, which was quite unique. I haven't seen a lot of sites like that. So what made you decide to go that route? Because that's all over.
Yeah, so we felt that, when we were creating this brand and creating this marketplace, we wanted to create, a top of mind brand by consolidating all sorts of opportunities and users into one convenient marketplace. A prime example is Auto Trader. If people are looking to buy and sell cars, they think, okay, Auto Trader is a good place to start. We want to start that top of mind branding as well, where if people are looking to buy or sell businesses, they think BizOn. And when they come to our site, we have opportunities that fit their search criteria. We have outliers. We have opportunities as little as $1,000 to opportunities as big as a couple $1 million. But that sweet spot is around $150,000 to $300,000 that these small business owners and franchise owners are looking to sell for.
One of my clients just sold his business. I wish I was paying more attention and would have looked at all the interviews I had coming up sooner than that, because it is one of those things where it's you literally are like, okay, I'm ready. Now what, right? Unless you get a business broker or somebody that can sort of connect people together. But Auto Trader for buying and selling businesses, that's a huge vision. And you have to sort of, I'm assuming, chunk it and take it up piece by piece. So how did you decide to go that huge, because you don't have to, and B, take those first necessary steps in order to do it?
Yeah, I think when it comes down to I love challenges. I love, my passion is creation. I like building out campaigns. I like building out businesses that add value to people's lives. And I think in our situation, when you're talking about either newcomers to the U.S. or Canada looking for American and Canadian companies, or just overall people looking for opportunities, we want to try and provide them the most diversified, search engine with all sorts of opportunities to satisfy their appetite. So for me, it was always about, creating a strong brand and creating something bigger where people will actually see value in. And then I think from this point forward, to satisfy that, it's all about creating a top of mind brand and attracting these engaged buyers and sellers that believe in the power of being a small business owner, that believe in the power of entrepreneurship.
Okay, and what we were talking about before is that you don't have to be a startup. You don't have to be that person, right? You can buy a business. But I've also seen a lot of people get really scared because there's a lot of investment, whether it be franchise or not. And if you don't have a lot of business experience, it can be super, super scary. So give me sort of a step-by-step on what people can do to make sure that they're A, buying the right business, and B, making sure that it's as successful, fingers crossed, as humanly possible.
Yeah, and, to start off first, I think, we're really trying to spearhead the whole concept of entrepreneurship through acquisition. So being an entrepreneur is just not starting something from scratch, but we also believe it's, buying something existing and making it better. Now, as far as the investment, people don't understand when you're starting a business from scratch, there's a huge investment in that. It's called your time. Right? People don't think it's as serious as money, but I do. You can waste a ton of time, and at the end of that journey, you figure out, oh, wow, I try to create something and there's no market fit. It's not successful, right? Now, when it comes to buying something existing, we always tell our people, you're buying something with a market fit. You're buying something that provides a shorter return on investment because it's a live, breathing business that you have impact with right away. In order to mitigate your risk, we always tell people, try and look for a business that's self-sufficient, meaning that it's not dependent on one leader or one supplier or one customer. Because what we notice is that businesses that are dependent on one person or one vendor, one customer, when you get into that business, it could be tricky. Clients leave, suppliers don't want to deal with the new owners possibly. So you really want to find something self-sufficient. The next is recurring. You want to find a business that has, recurring revenue. It doesn't have these vicious peaks and valleys that could be scary. And then the last is timing. I always like to say, if you're looking to buy or sell a taxi company right now today, may not be the best opportunity to go for. An e-commerce business, why not, right? So look at timing, look at economic trends and social trends to mitigate as much risk as possible. But I think it just comes down to, with all those things in mind, is really, really looking at what do you want to do with your life? What are you passionate about? What's your purpose? Because at the end of the day, we're seeing, millennials coming in flocks because they're trying to get away from that traditional 9 to 5, and they're looking to be their own business owner and do something that really satisfies them, something that they wake up every morning loving. So, yeah.
That's it. So tell me a little bit more, though, especially on the skill set side. So if there's a millennial coming in and they had a 9 to 5 job and they're like, I'm just going to buy a business, and yet they have no business experience, right? What sort of skill sets should they have? Because that's the other piece, is that you're playing with a little bit more fire when you jump into something that's already running versus if you're starting something from scratch and have like a longer learning curve.
Sure. And, sometimes I think, I heard this advice actually when it came to starting a business, but I think it's still, it still makes sense for even buying an established business. You are buying an established business with employees and clients and whatnot. So you have to have some experience of running and operating a company, right? Or you probably will set yourself up for failure. But when it comes to, starting something from scratch or buying something from that's existing, I heard this advice where, don't get rid of the stability of your 9 to 5. Just work even harder. So if you can find a 9 to 5 that provides you with the most amount of money for the least amount of work, go for that until you're satisfied with your startup or your existing business, that it's providing the revenue and the experiences that can basically replace that 9 to 5. So if someone's contemplating that, I wouldn't say get rid of the 9 to 5. I would say try and balance both. But out the gate, absolutely. If you're going to buy an existing business or franchise, you need to have the skill set and the mindset to run your business and hire employees and treat your customers and employees right and whatnot. Right.
Yeah, it's hard to know the skill set before you have the way to do it. So that's the thing that's tough. Yeah, well, I know, right? The problem of our world. But when we're looking at going into a business in general, and I help people get their business ready for sale quite often, right? Like, let's be the owner instead of not just working in the business. How often, when you're looking at the plethora of businesses to buy, do you have to have a role that you fit into in order to actually run it also? Because most businesses aren't that self-sufficient in general. And you kind of have to work in the business for a while. So you tell me, when we're looking at everything, will you have to have 20, 40 hours a week as soon as you hop in? Or is it easy to transition like a 9 to 5 without having to be in it?
So I think when it comes to transitioning, a lot of times the existing owners, they help you with that transition period, usually 3 to 6 months to get used to the business and whatnot. But I think those questions are answered through due diligence, like way in advance. As far as putting in time, when especially in our marketplace, you're talking about smaller businesses, so you may not just be the business owner, but you may have a day-to-day role in the operations of running that business. And if you're passionate about it and you're excited about that business, you need to be prepared to put in time. It's not, entrepreneurship through acquisition is not a replacement of the grind. The grind will still be there. You'll still have to hustle. You'll still have to work, but the thing is, you'll have that impact. You're the leader, you're the owner, but it's not going to replace that grind. What it will replace is you being depressed at your desk 9 to 5, doing something you absolutely hate. that's what it'll replace.
See, I appreciate you saying that though, because a lot of people are like, oh, you buy a website business and it just throws off cash, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my gosh, businesses have so many aspects. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that as they dive in, especially if they're not used to it.
Yeah.
So how can they find that stuff out?
Sorry to interrupt. I'll give you two examples.
Yes.
One is people they say, hey, listen, I have a business, but we're just going to start a website because people just come. No, not true. That's not going to happen.
But there's a quote about if you build it, they will come, right? I thought that's how it was supposed to work.
No, not true at all. And then, at the end of the day, what happens is when you're diving deep into thinking that, hey, the hard work is that replacement, that's when bad things start to happen. And, one example is restaurants. There's so many turnovers with restaurants because people think, hey, that's like a gateway, easy business to operate. That's my chance at doing something easy. They jump in 3 months down the road. They're like, oh my God, this is so hard. I just did this because I thought I'd be making a ton of money. And I thought it'd be easy. And then, they're selling and flipping, right? If you get into it for the money or because you think it's easy, at the first signs of difficulty, you're going to quit. That's why passion and purpose is so important today.
Tell me the difference. Yeah, because there's always, everybody listening to this show knows that there's those times. Every entrepreneur, no matter how successful, has those times.
Exactly.
But how can we tell the difference? Because I remember chatting with my best friend and she had helped a couple $1 million company grow. But from the inside, right? So she was an intrapreneur. And then she did her startup and she's like, they're very different, right? Like having resources versus having no resources. So what type of person should do acquisition versus the startup side?
So great question. So I think that startup entrepreneur is someone that has a passion for building out businesses. So creating something from scratch. Like, for example, me, I love building businesses from scratch. I love seeing an idea and a vision and then doing what it takes in order to attract the right team, be creative on literally zero resources, attracting the financing in order to just have this real life vision come to life, right? And that's what it takes to be a startup entrepreneur, is that grind and hustle. An entrepreneur through acquisition doesn't so much have to go through that grind of the startup phase, but they're an operator, they're a builder, they're good at running a business, at customer service, at taking care of their employees and running an existing business to run day to day. There's a ton of startup entrepreneurs that aren't operators, that can't, continue running a business. They build the business, they launch it, and, they're looking to hire a CEO. Right. So I think the biggest difference is startup entrepreneur is a creator, and an entrepreneur through acquisition is an operator.
So can you have a creator or visionary or whatever you want to call it buy a business, or should they not?
I don't think they would want to. I honestly don't think, because look how crazy this is. Mm-hmm. I started this marketplace where people could buy existing businesses and franchises. I believe in it. I believe in entrepreneurship through acquisition. Ask me if I would buy an existing business or franchise.
Would you buy an existing business?
I'm a builder. I like creating things from scratch. Am I an operator as well? Yes, I actually am. That's why, I'm leading my team and whatnot, but I'm a combination of both. Mm-hmm. So would I have no problem buying an existing business? Absolutely. I could operate it hands down. I'm very confident in my abilities, right? But my passion is creation. So if you talk to a passionate entrepreneur that wants to build, most likely I say 75%, but say, no, I'd rather try and build it out than start something from scratch because I have this innovation or this idea that is different than anything out there maybe.
Oh, okay. So there's a distinction then too. Because in my head, I help so many business owners and I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't just take their money and or pieces of it. I should just go buy my own and then take the exact same advice and then go do that there and run those teams, right? As a lot of work, hence the reason why I haven't done it yet. But in my head, I don't call myself an operator. I want somebody else to do all of that. So
Sure.
that's why I was so intrigued to be like, okay, should it just be the operator versus the visionary
Mhm.
on how that goes? Because I want to make sure that when people are listening, they're sort of pre-qualifying themselves, right, on this idea of acquisition instead. Right,
Mhm.
especially if they don't have a lot of time already, and the startup phase does take a really long time. I've had a lot of friends specifically take years before they can quit their day job because of trying to make sure that they have the amount of money coming in. And it seems like it could be faster if they buy one instead, technically. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of entrepreneurs through acquisition, whether they have cash or financing, like I said before, they're investing or acquiring a live, breathing business that's making money. So the return on investment is way shorter than starting something from scratch. A startup entrepreneur has to be okay with the fact that you may not be making money for 5 years until it hits critical mass or profitability or whatnot. An entrepreneur through acquisition, maybe due to their lifestyle, may not have as much time or patience on their hand and want to jump into something right away.
So do you think that somebody who is technically a visionary shouldn't buy a business?
I don't like I said. I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah.
But I don't like. Let's look at this example. Howard Schultz of Starbucks. He's a visionary. He's an unbelievable CEO. He bought Starbucks. It was an existing business. He bought that coffee company and he grew it into a multi-billion-dollar empire, right? So there's that example. So I think there's always, examples of visionaries buying existing businesses. But if we had to draw that line in the sand, most of the times I would say, hey, visionaries or startup entrepreneurs would probably rather create a business from scratch, and operators would probably be better to buy an existing business. So, but every example is different. Every example is different.
Definitely. Okay, tell me a little bit more about the buying side, right? So let's say you're a startup entrepreneur and you're like, I want to build this company to sell. What's the best thing that they can do so that way people will want to buy it in droves and they actually make a profit on it? Because you know how much time they probably put into it.
Yeah, so it is. I came up with the three pillars of creating a valuable and sellable business, and it's the same thing that buyers look for when they're looking to buy a business. Literally, create a self-sufficient business, have timing on your hand, and focus on recurring revenues, profitable recurring revenues that are growing.
Profitable.
It's-
Valid
it's-
distinction.
right? And a lot of buyers want to see at least 3 years of financials to normalize some sort of projection, right? But another creative angle as well for startup entrepreneurs is, and I think this is cool too because it kind of ties in, is don't be afraid to eat up other companies that complement what you're creating. That is a great way to accelerate growth, right? So that kind of balances that creator with that operator.
Can you tell me a little more about, I've had clients do that. And sometimes it's for wonderful things. And sometimes you're like, oh, they took on more than they could chew. Right. And so, and we don't want it to hurt the other company, the existing company that you already have. So give us some examples or the trajectory of what they should do if they are going to eat up some other companies that are similar.
So other than focusing on those three pillars, I think it comes down to understanding the culture at that company, right? Understanding who's going to be affected directly and indirectly through that acquisition. That transition period is important to make sure that employees or suppliers or vendors of that business that you're looking to acquire don't get slapped in the face.
Well, and give me some tips on that, because that's the thing. You're when this happens, you're like, oh, that employee sucks. That one does too. You can only do so much due diligence beforehand, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff. So give us some tips on mitigating that transition and what we can expect for loss of customers or clients or vendors or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that because every acquisition is uniquely different. But when you're going through due diligence, you're praying that you're asking the right questions. There's full transparency, and communication is top priority with shareholders and directors of that acquired business, and possibly employees as well. You are right, though. Sometimes what happens is through acquisitions, the last people to find out are employees, and the retention of employees may be affected depending on how strong the culture is, and how strong the culture is, and how, I guess, positive they're looking at this acquisition to be. But it's very hard to answer what to expect because every acquisition is so different.
Okay, then give us the due diligence process. What would you do if you were going to buy a business right now? Give me the steps on due diligence to make sure we are asking the right questions in case something blows up after we do.
Yeah, so for me, I think looking at the financials, obviously, of the business is extremely important.
What are we looking for within that?
So a lot, like I said before, it's a lot about recurring revenues, strong EBITDA, so you can apply some sort of valuation to the company. You obviously want to buy a business that's not overpriced, but you also want to be respectful of the valuation, and you don't want to underprice it, because what happens is a lot of business owners are looking to sell. They're sometimes not always looking to sell to the highest offer. They're looking to sell to the business owner that they believe in. That they believe in their skills and they believe they'll carry on their legacy.
Because it's their baby, yeah.
It's their baby, right? So I think when it comes to that type of transaction, there's a lot of due diligence from the seller's point of view too that a lot of people don't consider. They think that the buyer's in power most of the times, but the seller's in power too. Because for every entrepreneur, like you said, it's their baby, they're protective, they want to make sure they're handing it off to the right hands. Other than that, you want to jump into culture as well. You want to see...
Well, and actually, before we go to culture, on the finance, who do they hire? And a lot of people don't know what EBITDA means or anything like that. Oh, okay. So how do we get the information? Because most people... I'm just saying, stay away from finance. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to look at. They most likely will have to hire somebody to help them with a due diligence. So what do they do on that piece?
Okay, so EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. One thing is too, so Bizon's on that little line of that journey. Once you hit due diligence, we always say, like, we are very loud about saying, hey, make sure you have the acquisition team, your accountant, your lawyer, your banker, and then obviously your matchmaker, which we like to say Bizon. So when it comes to your accountant, they're probably the number one professional to help you look at those finances. If you're looking to get the business or evaluate the business as far as from a valuation perspective, if you don't want to source out a chartered professional accountant, you could also source out a chartered business valuator. They're laser focused on doing that, and that's it. So from a finance perspective, you could approach it that way.
Do you have anybody that you can recommend, or do you guys have specific referrals for some of that stuff? Because it's hard to find somebody that has your best interest at stake.
Yeah. So for us, the core of what we do is we connect buyers and sellers. But what we also do is we've successfully done this, is create a community where people could you can have access to tips, tools, perks, and resources. And one of those resources is support services. So for example, if someone wanted to connect with an accountant, lawyer, chartered business valuator, marketer, HR professional, whatever the case is, they could submit that inquiry through our marketplace, and then we connect them with our preferred partners, which we have a ton of.
So how do you pre-qualify preferred partner? Because I do referrals for people for everything, for accountants, for, you know what I mean? I'm like, only work with them. I don't trust anyone else, right? Because there's so many not good people out there. So how do you qualify them?
Service. So from a service perspective, they definitely have to align with Bizon. And then we have extensive interviews and agreements in place as well to mitigate any sort of risk of engaging in a preferred partner that doesn't align with what we represent.
Oh, so so do you attract them, or do you ask them? Tell me more about that side of things, because I've never done this and I'm interested. Yeah, no, we definitely vent them out. I think it's a balance of attracting them and also them coming to us. So we definitely vent them out from that perspective, but we're not aggressively going to every single say accountant in
in X area saying, hey, be a preferred partner, be a preferred partner. We're balancing exclusivity as well with quality.
Okay. So what's that business model side of things? Do they pay is it like Dave Ramsey's certified, whatever they are, so that they pay monthly or something like that to be a preferred partner for referrals, or how does that work?
Believe it or not, most of them, and it comes down to honesty and transparency as well. If there's an agreed conversation on we could really engage in reciprocal partnership, meaning that, hey, if someone's looking for an accountant, we have no problem sending them your way. But if you do have a conversation with clients or anyone in your network looking to buy or sell a business, please send them our way. If we could agree that there is a true reciprocal partnership, that's how we like to approach it. But if there isn't, sometimes we share on the success of our partner, meaning that we sent them clients. They said, hey, listen, I don't really engage with people that are looking to buy or sell. So we'll engage in an agreement where if there is success, we share in that success together.
Like a referral fee or whatever it is that you do. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now that we went over the finance part and took a little detour, now what are the other pieces of the due diligence that makes a big difference? Especially culture. We were going down that path.
So culture, I think it comes down to that transition period as well. When you're jumping into a new business, you have to understand that you're the outsider.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to do a great job at communicating with all the important stakeholders, understanding, what they've done in the past to bring them to this point. So you don't replay issues or successes, learn from the failures. And it's a big due diligence when you're talking about culture, because a lot of the times people interview the employees that are there as well to understand their thoughts on the business and what to change and what not to do. What I would recommend for anyone listening to this podcast here is there's a book. It's called The First 90 Days, and that's a great It generally talks about managers or CEOs jumping into a new corporation for the first 90 days, but it definitely applies to a new owner jumping into a new business.
Maybe you should write the book on the new owner jumping into the new business.
But there's so many similarities. So no, but it's true. So it's there's a lot of things to discuss, and approaches to consider when jumping into a new corporate job. That definitely apply with someone that's looking to jump into a new business that they just bought.
Yeah, it's insane. There's just so many pieces. Like as a coach, I go and I talk to employees and I was like, that's not okay. There's so many different facets to what people see. It's insane. And because it can be so many different things, you hopping in and doing a massive amount of due diligence is huge. Because imagine you lose a key employee and then go, oh, there goes all that. Now you have to solve that problem while you're at a day job. That's a lot.
And I think, why it's sort of hard to answer as well is because every situation is truly unique. From a seller perspective, you have to understand probably 5 years into planning to create a sellable and valuable business. It's not like the seller's waking up and saying, hey, I'm going to sell this business. Because if they are, it's not going to be successful. And from a buyer perspective, it's a lot of soul searching, and understanding what they want to do with their life, what they believe, being self-aware of their capabilities, of what they're gonna love, have passion for, and what they believe they have the skill to operate an existing business. And then it gets down to the nitty-gritties of due diligence, having those professionals to help you navigate through the finances and going through that. And from a culture perspective, really understanding that business from a deep perspective at the roots. Why was it created? Who are the vendors? How does the revenue look from those peaks and valleys? Employee retention, customer satisfaction. It's really jumping into all these facets of the business that are important. But every approach is uniquely different.
Well, and a lot of the times you have to do all that yourself. So the due diligence process can take a ridiculously long period of time, right? It's not like the seller's handing you on a silver platter all of the things. I mean, they'll try, but how long does the due diligence process take, or how long should it take?
Yeah, I was just going to answer that. So it depends on how big the business is, but you could see it. You could see, including due diligence, a whole purchase and sale process taking anywhere from 6 to 18 months. It really depends on how big the business is. Say businesses within our marketplace are a little bit smaller. So saying, 6 to 8 months could be that timeline for that process.
How do they buy it, right? Do they usually get a loan for it? Do they get friends and family loan? Like, does the seller finance pieces? Like, you tell me what the most typical way is. So if somebody's like right now want to go on your website but don't have the cash to buy a business, what do?
So a lot do have cash, especially newcomers to Canada and the US. They come with cash in their pocket looking to buy into that American or Canadian dream, and they're looking for that existing business. But there is a high volume of people that finance the transactions as well. And the kicker is it's pretty easy to finance an existing business, especially a good existing business.
Profitable
right?
Business. Yes, that is helpful for sure.
Right. So there aren't many financial institutions that wouldn't finance a purchase of a live breathing money making business.
But you stay away from, you don't say like this loan is better than this. I mean, I know you're from Canada anyway, it's different than the States, but in general, you sort of stay away from that and just say, do your due diligence and get the best deal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not an expert on that. So that would be my approach.
Be like, okay, hire these. You could have preferred partners selling specific things. I'm not sure. Maybe you did.
And we do have lending partners as well. So we do provide those connections. We have a pretty extensive list of preferred partners that we can pretty much help anyone with any sort of inquiry. But when we sit back, we have to understand we're not business brokers at Bizon. And that's why having preferred partners is so important to us, because we want to provide that resourceful experience for our users. And a lot of these preferred partners that we engage with definitely complement what we're doing as a matchmaker.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, you don't have to know all the pieces, because you know the people that have all the pieces, and you can and that's I think a huge highlight for everybody that's listening, because you don't have to know everything. Even when you get into the business, thank goodness there are other people that know more than you. And it's just that the thing that's tough is finding that trusted relationship of somebody that is going to give you the right advice instead of the what's in it for me advice, which is hard to find sometimes, especially with the people online and doing Google searches to find preferred people. It's tough.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. I know we have to start wrapping up, but so the last final question, and now everybody's like raring and ready to go to buy businesses. So of course, check out his site, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But what is one action besides buying a business, which I know is, I'll say it for you. What is one action that listeners could take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of $1 million?
I'm going to go really deep on this one. Okay. And I think it's getting your mind right. A lot of people really take that saying as fluffy, but it's not. You really need to get your mind right, and you need to focus not on making $1 million, but how to add value to 1 million people. I take that to my core every day, and I use that every day as motivation that I'm not here to make millions of dollars. I'm here to satisfy millions of people. And if you approach that in business, that's how you become a millionaire. Because at the end of the day, when your purpose and passion is so deep, that's what really propels you through those hard times. Because if you're chasing that money, like I said before, the first sign of difficulty or an obstacle, you're packing it in and saying, I'm done. Right? The passion and purpose really excels you through that.
And that's why you have such a big vision.
Get your mind right.
Slap them around a little bit.
Yes.
It's tough though, because it's one thing to say, it's another thing to actually do.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you give? So I know I don't usually ask follow-up questions, but what do you do when you start going after the money side to sort of swing yourself back to the actual impact side?
So I like to do the Tony Robbins approach.
Okay.
Yeah. So every morning so I start every morning like this and finish every day. I take 3 minutes to just not think. And then I tell myself, hey, what are 3 things I'm thankful for in my life? And then I end it off with what are 3 of my goals to accomplish today and in my life that aren't attached to money. And I just constantly remind myself that that's what I'm striving for. This is what I'm thankful for. These are my goals in life. And none of it has to do with, hey, I want to drive a Rolls Royce. So, you know what's weird? There's a lot of people out there that are like, hey, I can't wait till I have a big yacht. And I'm saying to people, hey, I can't wait till, there's a building with a Bizon logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
I want to, you know what I mean? Like that's what drives me, right? So yeah, get your mind right.
I have a Vision of Mind movie, and I have exactly the same thing: a very large building with my name on. That's what I think drives visionary entrepreneurs. They're like, and I want all of this, and of course it symbolizes, and money's great and all that fun stuff. And I don't particularly want a yacht, but I think the people that you're talking to, listening right now, feel the exact same way. They want to make an impact in the world because that makes all the difference. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Where can we find more about you? Say the website name again. Make sure you spell it so everybody's got it. And all that fun stuff.
So it's mybizon.com, mybizon.com. And yeah, just go there and there's everything. We have all our social links to all our social media accounts. We're big on social selling. So we're always trying to attract and connect with like-minded people that truly believe in entrepreneurship through acquisition.
And you can go search like you would for a car, but for a business. So it was really fun. I was like going, ooh, that looks good. It's not good for people that have ADD that are like, oh, I want to buy this one. Oh, that sounds great too. I could help this one, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks so much.
If you enjoy this show, I would really appreciate your wonderful words of feedback. Go leave me a review. I would love a rating, whatever you can do in the time that you've got. I would so appreciate it.